And hello, everybody. Welcome on Mysteries with Mr. Belgium, Mr. Belgic, with Ned Dehan today here, Mr. Black Box Online Radio. How are you doing, Ned?
I'm doing fine, thank you so much. And hello, everybody. My name is Ned DeHaan. As Jerome said, I'm the host of Black Box Online Radio. I put out content mostly 6 days a week, talking about the Zodiac Killer, D.B. Cooper, Jack the Ripper, and I also release segments of an audiobook on the weekends, which is part of the White Horse Killer saga. You can listen to all that on YouTube 100% for free. And thank you for inviting me to talk about the disappearance of Maura Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we are going to talk about Maura Murray. So, for those of you who don't know who Maura Murray, born on May 4, 1982, is an American woman who disappeared on the evening on February 9, 2004, after a car crash on Route 112 near Woodsville, New Hampshire, a village in the town of Haverhill. Haverhill, yeah, Haverhill. Uh, Whereabouts remain unknown. Mora was 21 years old, nursing student, completing her junior year at the University of Massachusetts Amherst at the time of her disappearance. So it's it's still an open case. It's not a cold case. She disappeared on 2004. February 9, 2004 is still an open case. If you have any information about her or her disappearance, you can contact the authority. And for the rest, I'm going to give you the mic to Ned to explaining what it's all about.
Thank you, Jerome. So, I first learned about Maura's disappearance in 2015, well before I started Black Box Online Radio. And it was one of the true crime cases that I started just exploring because I'm a true crime follower. And it's quite different than the experience of, oh, you watch a YouTube video and you think, yeah, that's a really interesting story, and then you don't do anything with it. I first learned about Maura Murray's case because I wanted to get more answers. I didn't want to leave it at just one or two YouTube videos. I learned about this story because of the Lord Nart's channel, and John Lorden did a two-part video series on the disappearance of Maura Murray, and he recommended the Missing Maura Murray podcast, which is hosted by two guys named Lance and Tim, and I got pulled into their world. And much as Jerome said, she disappeared after crashing her car on February 9th of 2004. But some people will dispute a lot of things about the car crash. Did the car crash even happen? Maura was apparently having a lot of trouble when she was a student at UMass Amherst, and by trouble I mean emotional trouble, as well as perhaps having somewhat of a drinking problem, and also maybe some family issues, maybe some types of academic issues. And one of the widely held beliefs is that Maura just wanted to get away from all of these things for a week, and she was known to do things like this. One of her friends reported in an older documentary that Maura simply would be the type of person who would just skip school and run into the city for the day, take the train in there, and just do it impromptu, unannounced. So these types of things weren't completely out of character for Maura. Maura Murray was working an overnight job actually in a dorm, and she said that she had a family emergency that was involving her sister. And again, Jerome can correct me if I've misstated anything. She actually acted like she took a phone call. She sat down on the floor, put her back against either the wall or a cabinet, and she just said, "My sister." Someone asked her,
Yeah,
"What's wrong?" She just said, "My sister." But it appeared that there was no real family emergency taking place.
no,
So then Maura heads out in her black Saturn, driving down, as much as Rome said, going around Route 112, Haverhill, New Hampshire, and then the car either crashes or goes off the road. Now, this is going to be very important later on. But as far as the way that Maura um, acted after the scene, some people think that there are a few oddities about this. Maura gets out of the car, and then she is either standing or sitting for a brief time, and a school bus comes by. The school bus is driven by Butch Atwood, and he asks Maura if she needs help. And she says no, she's already called AAA. He says that he can take her to his house or make a call from his house. She says that she doesn't need that because she already called AAA for roadside assistance. He knew that this was a lie because there was no cell service in the area. I think cell service is actually pretty good now, but in those days, back in 2004, I remember this very clearly. You could not use a cell phone in the mountains. Only certain people and certain types of cell phones would work, certain locations in the mountains. Totally normal not to have cell service on some back road in New Hampshire. So Butch Atwood pulls his school bus into a driveway, and he did his paperwork in the school bus, which he normally did. Then he went into his house and told his wife about the situation. They called 911 anyway, even though Maura said she didn't need assistance. And then they asked Butch Atwood's wife over the phone, well, where's the girl now? And his wife said, I have no idea where she is. And the long story short is that Maura disappeared into the night, into the darkness of New Hampshire, never to be seen or heard from again. And is there anything else you'd like to pick up with, Jerome?
A lot of things. First, it was not a car. It was his a father car.
Well, sure, but that's totally normal. I mean,
And
like, someone has purchased the car, or if someone has the car in their name, but Maura was the principal driver of
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
Saturn.
That
And
that you
her
know.
father didn't even want her driving it, to be honest. He says this very clearly in his most famous video that was done by Maura Murray Missing. Not Missing Maura Murray, but Maura Murray Missing. And he said the car was running on 3 cylinders. And this becomes
Yeah,
very important because Maura's black Saturn had a very odd technical issue. It appears that when the car was parked, that smoke would come out of the exhaust pipe
yeah,
and it would attract attention to itself. So, one thing that is believed is that Maura would take a rag and put it in the tailpipe of the car to keep the smoke from pouring out so people would not suspect that there was something wrong. But in terms of the way that people interpreted this, this went haywire over the internet. There was a blog even that was talking about how this is a clue that doesn't make sense. Lance and Tim went in all different directions on the Missing Maura Murray podcast, and it became so confusing because, number one, it was reported that Fred Murray, Maura Murray's father, instructed her to put the rag in the tailpipe and to use it while she was driving, and like to drive with the rag in the tailpipe. And some people were saying, well, the car won't even start like that. And other people were saying, yes, it will. Very, very weird. But the honest answer that I think is that, well, number one, it appears that Fred Murray might not have even made that statement to the media about how he told Maura to keep the rag in the tailpipe while driving. It seems like the smoke was coming out of the exhaust pipe, so she did that to prevent people from
yeah,
looking at her car while it was parked. But that's my take on the subject.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what I read, it's that she had this issue with her car, so she need a new car. She called her father. Her father make the trip to meet her where she was where she was. It took a room in a hotel for the night or for today, let's say, and the the night before her disappearance, like she don't have any car, she asked her father, but maybe I'm wrong, but she asked her father to have his car to go to a party. But it's I think it's little weird, but it's just on my part because he knew that Maura had some problem with alcohol and given give her a all new because the car was really new. Uh, his all new car to her daughter to go to a party. It's strange. And
I do
after
think
that,
it's strange.
and and after that, we have two different story. We have a story from the owner of the motel room or the hotel, who say that Maura was in the entrance, sleeping in the entrance of the of the hotel till the morning, and Fred, her father, stayed that she go what yeah, she go at her hotel room, but he didn't remember have uh, seen her um, before he's wake up. So there is two conflicting story here, but we will start by the beginning, the phone call. Where this phone call come from, and why to lie about this family emergency? Because we know that for fact there was no emergency in his family. So what's going on? Because after that, after this phone call, she goes to her apartment. She she packed everything in her apartment. The very packed in box everything. She made some research on internet, on my understanding, and after that she left. She had called a boyfriend and stuff like this, but she had wrote some email to the school to say that she will be missed for some day because she had an emergency in her family, which is a lie. Um, but yeah, why? Starting by the beginning and starting where this phone call come from.
Well,
Did you
where did
know
the phone call come from? I mean, it's possible somebody actually did call Mora's phone, but I think that it was mostly a lie. It was something that was
that?
concocted by Mora, and it was an acting performance. I don't think anybody was calling her to arrange this disappearance or telling her to go out and that she had to do something. And there is another theory that Mora went on her break. She's
Yeah,
working the overnight shift in the dorms. She goes on break and she's driving to get food and coffee, and she accidentally hit another student while she was driving named Patrice
yeah,
Vassy, who ended up in a coma for 1 month actually. And as I understand, he doesn't like to talk about the disappearance of Maura Murray because he was badly injured. As I said, he was comatose for a month. And one theory was that Maura was acting like that at her job, having this type of emotional breakdown because she felt very guilty about running over the student, Patrice Vassy. And I mean, it goes into a bigger set of claims that Mora may have actually left the country on her own accord because she was waiting out the statute of limitations on the Vassy hit, so she
yeah,
couldn't be prosecuted for it. Is that really what happened? I don't think so. Now, most people, I think, just accept that Mora made up the story about the family emergency on her own. Now, you brought up a very interesting detail. Why did she pack up her room and put it into boxes? It's quite possible that she didn't do that. Maybe she just never moved in from winter break because, when the university goes on break for the winter holidays, and it was
yeah,
February 9th. And I mean, if I've gathered anything about Maura Murray, it's that she's a little bit unorganized, disorganized. She knows what she wants to do, but she's not completely organized with everything. Oh, and Rob Beansman is in the chat.
I
Being
Rob.
from Boston, I'm always interested in these somewhat local cases. Thank you, guys. Yeah, sure. This is a Massachusetts
Thank
case
you.
that goes into other parts of New England, like New Hampshire. But it's good that Jerome brought up this point that Maura is researching things on the internet, right? She's
Yeah,
making phone calls not only to places in New Hampshire, she called Stowe, Vermont as well. What it seems like is that Maura wanted to go to the White Mountains, and her father, Fred Murray, said clear as day, again on the most popular video, that he believed that she was going to Bartlett, New Hampshire to spend a week there, and she knew the town very well because they grew up spending
yeah, yeah.
vacations
She
in
knew really well the
New Hampshire.
area because she was there with her family almost every 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 holiday. So she know
Yes.
really well the place, and yeah, it makes sense that she needs to make a break. Yeah, this is the place where she goes. Yeah,
Okay, so Mora is perhaps planning to just kind of spend a week by herself in the mountains. I think that that is perhaps one of the more reasonable things. Now, until tomorrow, nine here, says something very interesting. The driving accident you are discussing explains the bottles of alcohol. Prior to Mora's accident, she had gone to a liquor store at some point during that day, and she had purchased multiple bottles of alcohol. There are conflicting reports as to what type of bottles they were, but like she bought a box of Franzia wine, a six pack of wine coolers, and for years I said they were Seagram's wine coolers, but then I heard another report that says they're a different kind. So she has wine coolers in the car with the Franzia wine, a bottle of Kahlua, Bailey's Irish Cream, and you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
get conflicting reports. And they're
yeah,
just two different stories about the exact bottles that she had in the car, and that is, just something that's not exactly the most well documented. But there is possible that the reason for the conflicting reports is because in the state of New Hampshire they had a law that you could only have a certain number of bottles of alcohol when you cross a state line, and that Mora might have actually been stopped by a police officer earlier in the day for speeding or something. Hey, you got a Massachusetts license plate. What's with all this alcohol? You're only allowed to have like three bottles of alcohol, whatever it was. And one of
yeah.
them may have
It's
been
possible. Yeah,
confiscated by an officer. And I have to give full credit to Aaron and Ethan, who ran the podcast 107 Degrees, and Aaron Larkin really wanted to reinforce that. Now, this comes back to Until Tomorrow Nine's point. Does the alcohol explain the car crash? Again, Aaron Larkin would disagree absolutely, because the whole narrative that 107 Degrees wanted to establish was that we aren't 100% sure that Maura was drunk when she was driving the car on Route 112. The evidence for this is, I mean, multiple bottles of alcohol were left in the car, and they were unopened. And number two, there was a Diet Coke bottle that was found either next to or underneath the car. Most sources, it sounds like it's underneath the car directly. And they pointed out that they aren't even 100% sure that that was Maura Murray's Coke bottle. And the more important reason, the police officer in New Hampshire who picked it up did not drink alcohol regularly and just said that it had a funny smell in it, and she didn't know what alcohol smelled like. So that person wasn't able to comment on that, whether or not that was actually alcohol. And this isn't even a strong point, but Maura Murray was not known to drink Diet Coke. Her preferred beverage was cherry Coke, and she would drink it with a Twizzler as a straw. Now, the other types of alcohol, that sounds about right. Maura was known to drink Black Russians, which is Kahlua and vodka, and Kahlua was on one of the
yeah,
receipts. It's possible she had vodka in the car as well. But, Jerome, interestingly, I did an old black box recording on BBOR once saying that alcohol is the biggest clue. And all this stuff, like no matter what receipt you're going with, no matter what report you're looking at, and when it says that Mora had the box of Franzia wine, the wine coolers, the Kahlua, maybe one other bottle, so many people, even to this day, say that, well, that's too much alcohol for one person. Clearly, she was going to meet somebody. I disagree. I said alcohol is the
yeah,
biggest clue. I think that's exactly what one person would want if they were going to go to a hotel room or a lodge for a week just to be by
yeah.
themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
It's so she wouldn't have to go out and get more. As we've already said, Maura has had some problems with drinking,
yeah,
and we'll come back to some issues about her father in a second, because
yeah.
you were talking about the loaning out the car and so on. But I mean, I just think this shows that Maura was by herself. She didn't want to meet anybody. She wanted to be alone, and well, I mean, I'm going off of memory until tomorrow night. I don't believe the bottles were opened, and I'm pretty sure that the box of Franzia wine was not, but didn't know the bottles were unopened, so I wonder what her plans to use it were. I think she wanted to go into a hotel room and get drunk for a week by herself
Yeah,
and have,
yeah.
like, supply for at
Yeah, yeah.
least
It's
two,
not
3 days
impossible.
uninterrupted.
Yeah, yeah. It's not impossible. Two stuff that I've seen in this story, which I find weird. That's when she goes from the liquor store, we don't have the full camera footage. First, I don't understand why. And when she stopped to get money, she stopped what moment to get money. We don't have the full footage either. So there is two stuff here that I don't understand. Do you have some explanation for that, or we don't know?
Are you talking about why we don't have the camera footage?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not. Maybe it's just not been released to the public. That's also been frustrating because I was on
yeah,
this countdown YouTube channel once, and they were doing like top 5 mysterious disappearances with video footage. And one of them they talked about was the disappearance of Maura Murray, and they didn't even play the footage because they didn't have it. Now, Jerome, have you encountered something like this since you've been looking into this? Because this was a major problem that people had when they would look into the disappearance of Maura Murray. Number one, Moore goes to the liquor store, right? They can account for that before she starts driving to New Hampshire. But they would say that there's at least 45 minutes to an hour of her day that was not accounted for. I think that should be accounted for rather easily because I think she was picking up accident forms from the DMV that she was supposed to fill out because to help her father. Now we have to go back to something that we skipped, and that is when you said that Maura Murray and Fred Murray, are at the hotel. Maura takes the car out driving, and she apparently is intoxicated, and she crashes her father's car. Right?
yeah,
That's the part that we left out, and this is going to tie into perhaps one of the reasons for Moore's disappearance, just more stress, more problems. And Fred Murray wasn't extremely mad about that because it seemed that the insurance was going to cover
yeah.
Moore's accident.
Almost
So
everything.
he would,
Yeah,
yes. So I see what people are trying to do. They're trying to say Maura had a drinking problem. Maura was problematic. She's a deviant individual. She crashed her father's car, so she's trying to just escape the whole situation, drinking and driving again out of the Diet Coke bottle, gets into a second accident in a short amount of time, and then she just had some type of mental breakdown. But all of that is speculation, and that's what 107
yeah.
Degrees really wanted to talk about.
I'm going to watch if there is some question here.
Fire Pixie, I don't mean to sidetrack the conversation and so you can't just ignore my comment. You can just ignore my comment. Well, it's right on the screen now, so we can't. But I'm so sick of hearing about Maura Murray. I don't mean to seem insensitive. I just don't care at this point. Well, Fire Pixie, it's been very hard for me to follow the developments because there is always just a revised version of the story coming out. They were always changing the story. This is why I just had to stop following the narrative because I'm listening to people talk about what's going on in the Maura Murray case. Okay, well that's not really true. This is what actually happened. 2 months go by. Okay, that's not really true. This is what happened. And it became very difficult to follow and understand the actual narrative of the events surrounding Maura's behavior. And then you got people like Aaron Larkin and Ethan who are just trying to challenge the whole thing. So it's a little bit difficult to know exactly what happened. But yes, I followed Maura's
Yeah,
case, in the past. And in 2020, I did lots of black box recordings about the disappearance of Maura Murray, and partially due to the pandemic and being inside and going through all of 107 degrees. But, at the end of the day, I hope that Maura will be found at some point.
yeah. I hope too. I think if you start to be interested by this case, you need to start with the with what the media and the people were saying at the beginning, because, like you say, if you go by year and year and year and year, the story change all the time. So if you if you start to be interested in this kind of case, you need to start at the beginning, in my opinion. In my opinion, because this is the most accurate stuff you can have. It's at the beginning, not 20 years later. But yeah, Ned.
All right, then, let's do that, Jerome. Because, start from the beginning. The video that was put out by Maura Murray Missing, again approved by her family, was that Maura crashes the car, and then she gets out. She has the conversation with Butch Atwood, the bus driver. He
Yeah.
goes back home. Then they brought search dogs to look at Maura's car to see if they could track her scent. The search dogs lost her scent about 100 feet from where she went. It's either 100 feet or 100 yards, but no matter what, it's very close to where the vehicle was. And
Yeah.
Fred Murray, her father, challenged this narrative, saying that what they did was they used a glove that Maura had in the car that was new, and it wasn't something that she had handled a lot. So he thought the dogs perhaps couldn't detect the scent very easily, but I don't necessarily think that's true. If she had been regularly using it since Christmas, when she reportedly received the gloves, then she would have been able to, the dogs would have been able to connect with the scent. And I think
With the
this
scent.
shows something very telling. Jerome, what do you think about this? If the dogs lost Maura's scent 100 feet or yards from the car, and it's roughly in the middle of the road, does that not suggest that she got into somebody else's vehicle?
Yeah. Yeah. It's logic. Yeah.
Now, what's the alternative possibility? The alternative possibility would be that there is something that hinders the abilities of search dogs, and that is cold weather. The way that search dogs can operate is they smell the scent that is preserved in moisture in the air. And
Yeah.
when it gets below freezing, as it should have been on the night that Moore disappeared, and definitely overnight in New Hampshire, then it would have been might have been more difficult for the dogs to detect the scent because the scent is actually preserved, but they're just unable to differentiate between the scents that are present. So that could have been something that was a problem.
Sorry, it was my dog.
Oh, I thought you were about to say something, Jerome. Oh yes. Oh, you're talking to the dog, not me. I
It
thought
was my
you
dog.
had saying something to me. No, it's all.
Don't worry.
But
And
yes,
yeah.
that could be an
That's
explanation as to why Mora did not get into a vehicle. There are two possibilities. And did you want to do some in the chat, or did you want to talk about the car? I saw you pull up the photos of the car.
we can start with the chat. Um,
Sure. This is a great one to bring up from Rob Beansman. New Hampshire doesn't charge tax. They have their own state liquor stores, but apparently they only allow you to bring 3 quarts into New Hampshire. Yes, I think that's right. You're only allowed to have 3 quarts of alcohol when you're crossing the state line. And Maura had the Massachusetts plates, and it's quite possible that that stuff was just confiscated by an officer. But that is almost like making an assumption. I mean, I accepted that we aren't going to know 100% how much alcohol Moore purchased. And my honest take on it is I don't think that changes anything. I still think that Moore was acting alone. I don't think she had a plan to meet up with anybody. I don't think there was a tandem driver. I don't think there was a plan to meet so and so at a cabin. I don't think that her family came looking for her later on and then they got into a dispute and someone took the alcohol or whatever they're trying to say.
No. But yeah, it's highly possible. Yeah, absolutely. Love you more. Yeah.
Yes, Mora's case is odd. But Megan, one of the real reasons why this case is odd is because we know so much about what happened prior to Route 112, but we know nothing about what happened after Route 112.
After that, no.
I mean, Mora vanished. She vanished.
I would like
Now,
to show you.
Megan says as well that Mora was a long distance runner. Yes,
Yeah.
Mora was long distance runner, cross country runner, and the cross country running coach, the running coach at UMass Amherst, was named Hussein Baghdadi. He went by the nickname Haas, and Mora and Haas were reported to have had a long-standing affair, even though Mora had a boyfriend named Billy Roush who lived in
Yeah, Billy
Oklahoma at
Roush.
the time
Yeah.
because he was stationed there with the military. So, I mean, some people were looking into Haas as a suspect, and there's a guy out there who wrote a book called True Crime Addict, though, that interviewed Hussein Baghdadi, Haas, and what he said was that Hussein Baghdadi was the only person in the entire investigation that never lied to him. He was very upfront about everything, and I just I don't know. I don't really think he's a suspicious character in this. But here's something that's more important. We have another comment here from Megan, though, that says, long distance runner, they began searching for her almost immediately. She didn't just lay down and die in the cold. How has the story changed? All right, Megan, this comes back to what I said about the search dogs. Maura was a runner. They bring this up all the time. Did she just start running, like trying to run to the nearest town or something like that? And was her scent not preserved in the snow and because of not preserved in the air because of, as I said, it went below freezing? Maybe it was below freezing when the dogs are trying to track her down. And also, missing Maura Murray brought this up. When people are running in the cold, the risk of dying from the cold, freezing to death, is much higher. It could be something like that. You could even see this on the graphic for missing Maura Murray. They have Maura running down the center of a road. And
Yeah.
I think that those are two strong possibilities. She either entered somebody's car, maybe the dogs couldn't detect her scent. As of now, though, I would lean toward Maura entering somebody's vehicle, but I would love to know what everybody thinks in the chat. Megan says we should care about all
Yeah.
missing persons, but I would say this case is odd. Yes, absolutely. And
Absolutely.
on Black Box Online Radio, I don't tend to talk about too many missing persons cases anymore because of some complicated reasons. And in the true crime world, you're analyzing criminal behavior, but in missing persons cases, we don't necessarily know um,
No,
if the missing
no, no.
person did anything wrong.
No, I can tell you on Twitter, I'm on a group who share people disappearance, and there is at least 2 or 3 disappearance by day. So if you start to go in there, you need to talk about 2 or 3 cases per day. It's almost impossible for one person to do that.
Rob Beansman says, I've only heard about it a few times and I'm from the area. It's an interesting case, though, that's still unsolved and it can be solved. Rob, I think that this case could be solved if and only if someone finds skeletal remains or perhaps some other remains that Maura had. Maura left the car with her backpack, and
Yeah,
that's one item that people believe would be preserved in the elements, that they would be something like that would not even decompose completely even after 20 years.
no, I don't think so. I have here the picture of the site, the crash site. So here we have the crash site. Here we have the dog
Right.
lost scent, and here it's Butch Atwood's home, and here it's one other place. I assume here there is a grange, and here a house, and she supposedly had a crash here, and Butch Atwood uh, see her there. And but after, if my memory is good, he claimed that the girl he saw was not Maura because they gave him a picture of Maura, and he say no, it was not her. But the dachshund goes to a house, his house, which is strange. Just in front of his house, it's yeah. I don't know. I don't say anything wrong against Bouchatwood, who I think passed away.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, it's strange because yeah, for sure you can keep buying. You can go with somebody else in a car, but just in front of his house. Plus, if my memory is good, because I've like you heard about this story, but long time ago, and I was just refresh my mind to watching the some reports, some stuff, some new stuff on internet about a case, and If my memory is good, I think Butchad would, after I've seen Maura, stay in his alley to complete some stuff on the paperwork before goes on his house to call the 911. But there is a problem with the witness, because there is a witness who saw the crash, or about the crash, or called the police at 7:27 p.m. I think it was a woman who lived just near the corner. This witness who saw a police car number 001 at 7:27, but Butch Atwood, who supposedly is in this car making work paper, don't see anybody, and after that he will call the 911, which is strange because there is not a long distance between both. So if a police car was there with the light and everything, he must have seen the police car. But
I can try to answer that, but I also want to be very clear about one thing. I will add a point of clarity. I don't believe that any single witness saw the crash. Now, what I do recall is that they heard
not see the crash, but
they
maybe
heard it.
Yeah.
And this became very difficult because John Smith, again, an investigator who followed this case very closely, interviewed someone on Missing Maura Murray who claimed that he heard the crash, and he said the car accelerated when it hit a tree, saying that the crash was caused intentionally. John Smith heavily disputed this by saying, the accident reconstructionists have proved this, and she did not hit a tree. Now, Jerome, can you pull up the pictures of the car again for a second?
Yeah.
I would also like to give credit to another researcher named Guy Parody, who has talked about this a lot, and it relates to the damage that was done to Maura's car. About how Maura's car does not look like it hit a tree. If Maura's car hit a tree, there would be an indentation. There would be an almost half-circle shape where the bumper was bent in if she crashed a car into the tree, or even hitting a snowbank. It wouldn't necessarily look like that. Guy Parody was proposing that Maura's car was actually in a previous accident earlier that day, maybe even with something like a school bus. And it would actually looks like there was a vehicle that was backing up and then hit Maura's car very gently in slow motion, and that caused the dent in the hood. Like, yeah, Jerome, can you bring that back actually real fast, please? Because I really think the audience should see this. I know that most people in the chat are familiar with this story, but if the bus is backing upward and then it hits the Saturn, they would have that bending shape in the hood. Now, can you name a bus driver who was in the area? How about Butch Atwood? And Megan was asking, was Butch Atwood in a bus or a car? He was in the bus that night. Yes, Mark has it right there. He was in the bus. And, okay, and as far as this goes, Jerome asked a question. Why are there inconsistencies in Butch Atwood's statement and seeing the police car? Now, this is all theoretical, but there was an officer named Cecil Smith at the time, and Cecil Smith was reported to have been a drinking buddy of Butch Atwood. Oh, what's that there, Jerome? That's Maura at the ATM, right? Yes.
It's Julie Murray talking about.
Okay. What would she do? She just got into a car accident. There are several houses within sight. And there's about the same amount of snow that there was in 2004. My fear is that she trusted the wrong person that night.
Okay. Wow, Julie Murray, thank you so much for that. I can answer a couple of things about that. But let's just finish this point real fast. Butch Atwood was interviewed later about knowing Officer Cecil Smith. He said, no, he did not. But apparently, according to Aaron Larkin, they were poker buddies and drinking buddies. They absolutely should have known each other. Why would there be inconsistencies? Well, Cecil Smith goes on to become a suspect. Maybe he was responsible for her disappearance. Let's go back to these. made by Julie. Did she trust the wrong person? Why didn't she get into a car? Why didn't she go to someone's house? Number one, 107 Degrees proposed the theory that Butch Atwood comes to Maura and he offers her help. And she says, no, I don't need it. Because Maura is 21 years old. Maybe she wanted to solve the problem herself. Maybe
Yeah.
she's thinking, I don't need help from a stranger. I mean, I might do something like that, especially when I was
Plus,
21.
yeah, plus she had a lot of problem before. So if she can fix this problem by herself, it's better than asking again for help, knowing that she had a lot of problem before that.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
she's going to try to walk or run to the nearest town or something like that. Maybe find someone who could help her start the car. Now, that's just one thing.
yeah,
This is the theory that I ultimately adopted. And I was like, this is my theory in the Maura Murray case, is because, I don't know if this is even something that I should say now because I don't know what happened to Maura. But the theory that
no,
I
but
went with for a
let,
long time was
let's say
that,
that it's
right, that Maura was abducted by a woman. Butch Atwood comes, to her, and she's like, "Hey, this is like a big guy with a giant beard or something," and he's just like, "Hey, do you need help or something?" She says no to him. So then she starts walking down the road like, "Oh crap, how am I going to find a mechanic this late at night?" And it's in the pitch dark in New Hampshire. So then maybe a woman came by saying, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And then she gets in the car with the woman, and then that woman drove her someplace where
makes
something bad
sense.
happened to her later on.
Makes sense. It makes sense because she refused the help of Butch Atwood. She will refuse the help of any man. But if it's a woman, it could be different. She could be acting differently with a woman than she is acting with a man. It makes sense.
But there is another possibility. And people in the chat can weigh in. What do you think about this? All right, so she said no to Butch Atwood. There is another man who lived in the area named Rick Forseer, who goes on to become a suspect. And I even feel bad for saying this. And if Rick Forseer's people or family members ever hear this stuff, please understand I'm not accusing him directly. This is just stuff
No.
that gets shared on the internet. And that is that Maura could have started to walk down the road. And Rick Forseer lived nearby. He was someone who had a shady past, and there were a lot of suspicions about him, and that he did something to coerce her into his vehicle. And that's why the search dogs lost her scent so close to the crash site, coerced into his vehicle, and then she was transported to his home, and he did something bad to her. So,
Yeah.
that's just another possibility. I mean, these things are all up in the air. Sorry, Fire Pixie, but it seems like you know your stuff about the Maura Murray case very well. Fire Pixie says I was into it years ago, but just can't stand it. Megan says I have done that. I've been going through the newspapers, the family website archive, police reports, and I have a spreadsheet and all. Amazing, amazing. We're gonna have to do a follow up with Megan here so she can share that spreadsheet stuff. So valuable. And when you say the family website archive, do you mean MauraMurrayMissing.com? That's the family website that I've been using. And I think on Facebook, the group is Maura Murray Missing.
Yeah.
Until tomorrow 9. Yes, I agree, Jerome, because facts that are not vetted make the save muddy. Quel est muddy en français? You got to do that one. How do you say muddy in French?
Muddy in French. I'm going to check, but it's it's not a word you can find in the dictionary. Maybe now, yeah, but at the time I didn't know, so I'm going to check what
Until
muddy
tomorrow 9.
means.
This is a very challenging question. Well, don't look at me. I don't know.
Muddy.
All right, and
Boule. It's boule. Boule. It's
boule.
yeah, boule.
Okay.
Muddy comes from mud. Yeah, comes from mud. Boo. Boo. So muddy, it's boo.
All right, yeah, we have a lot of things to chat. We can keep going with these. I think she may very well have entered some bad person's vehicle because she was not thinking clearly. Well, then, why did she refuse help from Butch Atwood? I
Yeah,
mean, he offered
exactly.
her help. The only thing I can
And
share about this until tomorrow night is sometimes you have an idea, and then you're thinking, the bus driver is offering me help. Nah, I don't need it. And then 3 minutes later, 4 minutes later, you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, you
crap,
change your
I
mind.
should have said
Yeah,
yes because it's freezing cold in the pitch dark. You're on the side of
yeah.
the road and your car won't start. You're like,
Uh,
this is going to suck. So then, yeah, you get into the wrong person's vehicle.
And what do you
And
think
that's
by
actually a theory. Go ahead.
the fact that Butch Atwood don't recognize her on picture when he's shown a picture of Maura and he say no, it's not her that I've seen at the crash site.
I don't think there's anything suspicious about it all. I think Maura Murray was the girl he saw at the crash site. I don't think there's any reason to suspect or doubt her. And is this getting into one of the theories that she was murdered by the police officer, and the police officer drove the car to the
Yes, it's
crash site,
Smith.
or
Yeah,
they had a girl drive the car to the crash site just to stage the disappearance because
but
and Butch Atwood, his poker buddy, was in on it.
yeah,
That's
but
a
it
wild
doesn't make
conspiracy.
sense. It doesn't make sense
Well,
so quickly. They find
I
a girl, they
tried.
murder her, and it's
I tried to make sense of that theory a long time ago, Jerome, because when I heard Guy Parody talk about the crushed car hood, I was just like, well, you have the bus driver right there who's the last person to have seen her alive. But a problem with the school bus is in America, the school buses have two hook like
yeah,
shapes that are on the bottom that don't appear to be indented into the car. And that's not the biggest issue. It's just that I was thinking maybe Moore's in the parking lot. Butch Atwood was backing up by mistake. He accidentally hit her car. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. And he knows a police officer named Cecil Smith who gets called and he's trying to sort it out. And then, okay, something bad happens to Maura. One person is covering for them. And then they just told so and so to drop the car off at the crash site. I tried to reconcile it, but in all seriousness, that's a wild conspiracy. Sometimes they're true, most of the time they're false.
here I don't see any conspiracy, but I could be completely wrong. I'm going to share with you the car damage. Yeah, here we have the first picture. We see that there
Yes,
is.
see how the hood has been pushed upward. I mean, it's almost as if like the bus is backing up and then it's
Yeah,
crunching the car hood.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah, but
if it
I
had
didn't
hit the
see.
tree, it would have been pushed into a half circle shape.
Yeah, because here there is a circle shape, and I don't see a tree doing that to a car.
Absolutely
It's
not.
it's yeah, here it's really really weird. Yeah, they take
A
the
snowbank,
measure.
maybe. I wouldn't rule
Now
out a snowbank 100%, but
no, but it's
I see what they're
possible.
talking about. But overall, I think the biggest takeaway from this is we see this in a lot of missing persons cases. And there was a channel that was called, what was it called? True Creepy Stories, run by Renil Gort. And he just openly said, what is it with all of these missing person stories that happen after somebody has had a car accident? Well, it's just statistics. It's
Yeah,
statistical. If you get into an accident in unfamiliar territory, then you have to stay by your vehicle. That's just what they tell people now. Because once you try to leave your vehicle, the risk of dying or disappearing gets so much
oh
higher.
yeah, yeah, really. But I think I'm not sure, but I think I have read at the time that the point where she come from, but we are not sure where she come from. But she had three possibility of destination to go on the mountain, on the White Mountain, and it was one of the road that she could take. And when you see here, I'm going to share with you somebody has made um, a video with um, I don't know how you call that. Um, don't know if you see. Here is the car crash.
All right.
Here on the left, it was Butch Atwood Homes. So if the crash site was here, it was really not so long. And here you have,
Not at
one
all.
house and a Grange. It's
That's the
it's
weathered
strange
barn,
because
right?
you have the corner here, and like you said, people claim that they heard a vehicle accelerating, but here, I don't know.
Sure.
Seems
And
strange.
I don't think that Maura hit a tree. And like as far as going to
No,
Wood's house, and,
no,
well, we can talk about that once we get through some of the.
for this part, I'm sure that the brush against the tree is made up, completely made up. But what? Go ahead.
Megan asks, what about the fact that her boyfriend can't prove what day he left base? The things that have come forward about him since. And you're referring to Billy Roush, who, as I said, was in
Yeah.
Oklahoma at the time. Now, I really don't
Working
want to
for the
accuse
Red
Billy
Cross.
Roush of everything. What's that?
He was working for the Red Cross, if my memory is good.
Oh, okay. Sorry if I've misstated something. But he is out of the state, no matter what. And is there some type of, well, Megan, why would there be a plan for Maura and Billy to do something in secret? I mean, couldn't they just do that and clue some people in? Like, like Maura had friends that she was talking to, like Sarah Alfieri and Kate Markopoulos. And why would she keep something like that hidden, especially if something bad happened to Maura? Wouldn't she just, was Maura just feeding them lies the whole time?
No, he was her boyfriend, and people knows. So people knew that she's her boyfriend. So
Okay, this is a good one from Megan. Julie came out recently and said she recently had gotten the gloves. Nobody can prove if she ever did wear them. I agree with this, Megan. Based on, even though everything that I've said, I think it's highly probable that Maura did wear them at some point. But as Fred Murray stated from the
yeah,
beginning, those gloves were new. Yeah. They didn't know if they were actually worn by Maura or not. I would think so. If she received those at Christmas time, right? That's December 25th, and this is February 9th. I would expect that she wore them at some point, but if it turns out she didn't, I wouldn't be surprised either.
it's like in the Zodiac this time we didn't know if the glove found in the Holstein cab were wearing by the Zodiac or by somebody else.
Megan says, I mentioned long distance running because she was very athletic. I don't think she ran into the forest and just died there, even if she had been drinking. Megan,
No,
when I first looked into this case in 2015, that was the theory that I was going with, that Maura went into the woods and died. Even on one of the early episodes of Missing Maura Murray, somebody wrote into the channel and just said, hey guys, what's the mystery here? This girl died in the woods. I had to take a step back from that for the following reason. The search dogs.
yeah,
And the fact that they lost her scent by the road, that made me think that she entered somebody's car. Fred Murray, her father, openly stated she wouldn't have entered the woods. She wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have thought that because she had spent her whole childhood as a hiker and exploring mountains. And she wouldn't have done that. And somebody even wrote this into one of the first episodes of Black Box Online Radio that I did about Maura Murray, when they said, why on earth would somebody enter the woods when it's pitch dark out and you can't even see your hand in front of your face? And the only thing I could say in response to that is, To the people who think that Maura died in the woods were under the impression and mindset that Maura had given up, that she had just had all of these problems over the last 2 weeks or
Yeah, yeah,
something,
yeah.
and she
And
had
it
just
was too
decided
much for
to
her.
walk into the woods and just she knew that she was going to freeze to death and had an emotional breakdown. Okay, if that's the case, where's the body? They
Yeah.
scoured the 5 to 7 mile radius around
Oh, yeah,
Moore's car.
yeah,
I believe it's 7 miles, right? 7 miles, and
yeah.
they didn't find anything. People have been looking for her for
Nothing,
20 years. They didn't find anything. So that
nothing.
tells me that her remains were most likely either outside of the 7 mile radius or they are in somebody's private property, like they were confined to someone's home.
Or hopefully she's still alive.
It's possible. Do you want to talk about those theories?
Oh, yeah,
Or do you
absolutely.
want to keep going with the chat? We have a lot of things in the
You,
chat. We can do that first, and we'll talk about
yeah,
the theories
okay.
about Moore still being alive. Mark, that's kind of the leading theory, but there are other possibilities. Now, Megan says the bus driver seems so suspicious to me. How can they 100% clear him? And even more so than that, Megan, Butch Atwood failed a lie detector test.
Yeah,
Lie detectors don't prove everything, but when he
no.
failed this lie detector test, they chalked it up to the medications that he was on. However, as I said, how could they clear him 100%? Maybe he had a personal connection to the police via
Yeah,
Cecil
maybe.
Smith. I'm asking that as a question because these are some serious allegations, and the
Yeah,
fact of the matter is these people have been accused online. It's like the Zodiac killer suspects.
yeah.
Jerome, we don't accuse people of being the Zodiac killer out of the blue. It's just we're
No,
responding to the profiles that have been created.
absolutely. But yeah, but
Fire Pixie says she wanted to go missing and she did. So this
that's a
sounds like
possibility.
one of the
Yeah.
theories that Mora wanted to run away. And one of them is that there was a suspicious vehicle that may have been following her, and it was a red truck. And as I understand, it was a pickup truck that had wooden panels on the side, a very noticeable car.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that was following Mora. This ties into some things like the tandem driver theory. Now, Drone, we said we'd talk about the theories that where Mora's still alive. There was that true crime addict guy was pushing the tandem driver theory for a very long time that Maura was driving down the road and there was a car following her. And then she staged the accident. She got into someone else's vehicle, maybe the red truck, and they drove to Canada. She crossed the border and she ended up living her life to this day in Canada under a different name.
Yeah, but for that you need money. You need a lot of money to do that. And what she
She
have, she only has $280, I think. She keep from the she has from the ATT stuff. I don't know if it's ATT or
ATM.
ACM.
Well, yes, but if she knows people who are going to be helping her
Yeah,
along the way, then she can use their money. And that's what people mostly think, that she moved to Canada. She met a man. Let's just keep it as simple as that, and that he would be supporting her. But the thing that I always bring
yeah.
up to Rome is the U.S. Canada border has changed. I think it changed in like 2009 or 10,
Oh,
2010 for sure. In 2004, you did not need a passport to cross the border.
oh,
When I went to Canada in 2006 with my university on a trip, we crossed the border with our university IDs. They're not even like a driver's license or anything, just the university ID. Hey, come on. Now, the laws have changed since then, but this is 2004. She would not have
yeah.
needed a passport or anything other than a basic photo ID, or perhaps talking her way out of it.
Yeah, and like you said, if you don't need real stuff, you can have false, not credit card or stuff like this, but a false student card or yeah. So what, but in a bus or a car? In a bus.
A bus. He was driving his bus.
Yeah.
Yes, he was in the bus, and he also
Yes.
did his paperwork in the bus before he entered his house. And
Yeah.
I don't even fault him for that too much because somebody's having car trouble and they seem like they don't need their help. So he's like, okay, well, let's just see if she can solve the problem herself. No, I'm pretty sure they know that Butch was driving the bus that night, and maybe he has something else going on. Now, was the interior of Butch's house inspected? I don't believe so. I don't recall anything of that nature.
No, I don't think so.
There was a different house that was inspected in the interior, and I think that's the A-frame house. Or there's the one house where the dogs go inside, and the famous words is that they went bonkers because they were
Yeah.
blood dogs. But that was not Butch Atwood's house.
No.
I'm glad you pulled this one up. Maybe she is smarter than people give her credit for, and she actually pulled off going missing. 2 challenges to that. Number 1, Maura Murray got caught ordering pizza with a stolen credit card.
Yeah.
And she got in trouble. Maura Murray got caught stealing makeup at West Point and got kicked out of the military academy. It was like $5 worth of makeup. And
yeah, it was nothing but
then, she couldn't continue at West Point. So then she got into the nursing program at UMass Amherst, and she found this credit card number on a receipt, which is also what they did at the time. I used to work in a restaurant in like 2005, 2006, and the credit card numbers would be on the receipts. That's why you're supposed to tear them up. She stole that off of the receipt and would order pizza and subs with it. I think to the tune of $300. Don't quote me on that. But ultimately, she was busted for that. Is she a criminal mastermind?
no.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that was the one we just had. Now, Mark says she wouldn't have left her family like that. They were too close. I think so, mostly. I don't see any reason why she would have left her family, except for the Vassy hit. But people really have analyzed the timeline about Maura leaving work on break and then coming back and hitting Patrice Vassy. Some people even say that theory has been ruled out. And I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I have even heard that her father gave her $8,000 the day before she disappeared. The fact that she wants a new car and he came up with all the money, but know that Maura wanted to disappear and give her the money to disappear. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, yeah. For sure.
That Lori Ruff woman pulled off disappearing, and Fire Pixie says she was unidentified for a while, but they know who she was now. I'm not familiar with the story, Mystic Jinx. Lori Ruff, that's not one that I am familiar with.
I Mystic.
Have you heard of that one, Jerome?
No. Jinx, if you can say more about that, we'll be grateful.
Ned, your car accident analysis is excellent. None of that was mine. That is all from Guy Parody and John Smith. Full credit goes to them. But thank you until tomorrow 9.
But in general, your analysis are excellent. So
it's not mine. Mark Winter says the temperature that night was really cold. I used to think that she ran into the woods, but the temperature was so low, I don't think she would have seen that as an option. And I used to want to disbelieve all of these people, Mark. I used to just want to just think like, sometimes people are going to go into the woods, even if they wouldn't normally do so. But the more that I think about it, the less likely I think that is. A lot of people have played out scenarios. Maura's car wouldn't start. So She tried to walk to the next town, maybe take a shortcut through the woods. Maybe she tripped over a log, broke her leg, and she froze to death, something to that effect. But, as much as her father said, that wasn't the typical way that she would have done things. And also, the cold is very important. She's waiting outside, trying to figure out what to do. So she wants to walk to the next town. Perhaps it's freezing outside because it's in the dark in the winter at night in New England. So she got into somebody else's car. All right, it was a bad idea to turn down help from the bus driver. Here's the next vehicle that comes along, and they go with him. Or her. She could have gotten in a woman's car.
Yeah, which makes really sense because did she really refuse
Mystic,
help?
did she really refuse help? I don't really know because we don't really know what Butch Atwood said to her or what she said to him. I think so. Yeah, it's possible. I tend to think he's telling the truth, and as Fred Murray said, some local dirtbag snatched her.
Yeah.
She crashes her car, goes to get help, and is either taken against her will or hit by a car or truck. The body is never found. Yeah, that could also be it, that somebody didn't abduct her, that she was hit by a car as she is trying to walk down the road to go see a mechanic. But Jerome, I wanted to ask you this. Have you heard this thing? I heard on 107 Degrees something very technical about Moore's car, the Black Saturn. I hope I didn't misunderstand this. But what they said was that there was nothing actually wrong with the car. That what they think happened was that Maura was turning the key in the car without taking it out of the ignition. If she had just pulled it out of the ignition, put it back in, and started it, then the car would have started normally. But she's kind of just turning it back and forth, and with her specific model of car, that wouldn't have worked. And we know the car could start because Fred Murray started up the car when it was in storage. Have you heard anything about this?
No.
Okay,
No.
maybe I've
Never.
I really hope that I didn't misunderstand that because that's very technical, but it's almost just like a lapse in judgment caused the whole thing. I'm going to try not to think about that. Butch gave two accounts of his encounter with Maura. In one, he spoke to her when he was in the bus, and in the other, he was standing on the road. I hadn't heard the one that he was standing on the road, actually, and I think that's quite unlikely because Butch Atwood was a very large man. He was even described as morbidly obese. If, one of them is true, I would think it's the one where he is sitting in the bus. But, it wouldn't be completely crazy for a bus driver to get out, but...
Yeah, it's really difficult to say because for me, in my mind, I think he's telling the truth, but we never know. We can never be sure at 100%. It's not possible.
So law enforcement believes foul play is likely when leaving your vehicle awfully grim. Well, now, until tomorrow 9. Not only foul play, but also accidents. As we've seen very clearly from the disappearance of Brandon Lawson, he left his vehicle after he disappeared, and it's most likely that he was just, he did not die because of foul play, but because of some other issues. Let's just say accidental death. People walking around unfamiliar territory, and so on.
But you see, the stuff is, she's lying to everybody to claim that she had somebody in her family who is injured or dying from something. So she needs to go. She write to her professor. She write to, let's say, everybody. And just like that, she had the crash and she died in the crash, or not die, but she had a problem. She had a car crash and she's abducted by somebody. When she was in her mind, she was to move somewhere else. It's the two stuff are strange. The combination of the two stuff are really strange.
As people bring a better challenge to this tandem driver theory, or about staging the car crash, did Maura cause the accident on her own so she could use it as an excuse to escape? You don't have to do that.
No,
If you want to
no,
run away, just run away. You don't
yeah,
have to stage a car crash. She could have been killed if she's going
yeah,
to stage a car crash. You don't know what's going to happen. The car could have hit something sharp and the fuel tank could have exploded. I mean, there would be absolutely no reason to stage the car crash. More importantly, that place was way more well lit than how about the absolute wilderness? Just leave the car away from the town, not nearby the houses.
yeah,
She would be witnessed by the bus driver.
yeah, yeah.
There are so many more places in the mountains that would have been more secluded
Oh yeah,
where she could have
oh yeah.
left the car. I don't think this tandem driver theory or stage disappearance theory has any value.
Ah, we have Vincent here.
Hey, Vincent, how's it going? New Cokes 2024.
Cheers.
And we have one from Mark here. Bill wasn't in the Red Cross. The call he received was from an unknown number traced to the Red Cross. Yeah, I didn't remember anything about Bill being in the Red Cross. This is Billy Roush, Moore's boyfriend.
Yeah,
Now, Mark, as I recall, he was in the military and he was stationed in Oklahoma. Is that
yeah,
right? I
but
mean, that's what I remember.
in the Red Cross, he was in the military, affected to the Red Cross,
Is
and
that
there is this
right?
famous, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and there is this famous phone call from the Red Cross to Maura. That's why they don't really understand why the Red Cross call Maura, and they figure out that it was Billy, uh, his boyfriend, who called her from the Red Cross.
They are certain that was Billy?
No,
Oh, okay, okay.
no, it comes from the Red Cross, but they assume it was Billy because Billy was there. He was affected to the Red Cross, but no, they are not sure. No,
Until Tomorrow 9 says, so as a senior citizen, let me say that when you walk the fence in a serious way, such as frequent alcohol, bad things are likely to happen. You know, let's say hypothetically, if Maura were drinking that night and she filled a Diet Coke bottle with alcohol because she wanted to disguise it, that would be 2 car accidents in a very short amount of time. She would be, quote unquote, walking the fence and bad things would have been happening. But we have to remember, we don't know if Maura was drinking that night completely.
no, we even don't know if it was Maura. So
I think it was, though. Do you think that it wasn't Maura?
I'm 50-50 on that because yeah, like I told you, it was a long time ago that I have learned about this story, and I always wonder if it was really Maura in this car or if it was a friend of her who tried to staging the fact that she had tried to leave from the White Mountain, and in reality she was completely to the other side where everybody was looking, but I don't have proof about that.
Mystic Jinx. Maybe the truth is in both his statements. First asked if she wanted help, and she said no, and Maura kept walking, and he followed her ahead, stopped the bus, and got off and grabbed her. Well, that would be a way to cover all the bases so he wouldn't be lying in anything, but also would not be telling the truth in anything either. I want to think that Butch Atwood was a good person because
Yeah, I think
I
so.
mean, it sounds like he just offered some person help. I really would hope that not everybody who offers help is going to be a malicious perpetrator. I hope so anyway. If there's any decency left in humanity. Hello,
I
Dark
hope so.
Side.
Hi.
Yeah, Mark, crashing your car in sub-zero temperatures isn't the best for starting a new life. Not at all.
No,
You don't even.
no.
You could just
Like,
drive the car out to a parking lot and leave it. Drive your car out to a
yeah,
secluded road and leave it. I mean, you don't have to crash your car if
no,
you're
you
going
don't
to be
have.
running away. And here's something else that would, I mean, just kind of challenge a lot of these things. Why put the rag in the tailpipe?
Yeah,
Okay, Butch apparently called the police when he already knew Cecil Smith was on site. His phone was on the front porch overlooking the crash site. And his
that's
wife did
what I was
report that
saying earlier. Yeah, this
she could
is
not, she didn't know where Maura was. Now, what's her
no
name? Her name was Karen, right? Or no, Barbara Atwood, right?
Barbara. Yeah,
Barbara Atwood. And she just said, I have no idea where she is. And so Butch calls when he knew Cecil Smith was on site. Now, Mark, is Cecil Smith a suspect in Moore's disappearance? Yes, he's a suspect. But is he a strong suspect? What do you think? I've gone back and forth on this because I really found that a lot of the pieces of evidence for Cecil Smith being involved in something would be speculative at best. And I mean, it makes sense about why the search dogs would lose her scent. Also, someone that she would get into a car with would be the police officer. Did Maura cause some type of accident underneath Butch's bus? And that's why they were called and he covered for her? I don't know. I'd hope not.
no,
I'd
no,
hope not.
me neither. Me neither.
I do think the story about Cecil Smith and Butch Atwood, though, is extremely suspicious because, again, Cecil Smith is the police officer, and the fact that they denied knowing each other when it appears to be very clear that they did,
Yeah,
suspicious.
yeah, it is. Oh yeah, James Renner, is being sued by the family.
Yes,
I
this is the
think.
person whom I was referring to as the true. Yeah, this is the true crime addict guy. I don't say his name because I don't trust him at all. The true crime addict guy researched this case and has a good video on the case. I'll post it on your Discord, Jerome. I don't discourage people from looking at his stuff. I just say that my experience with viewing the true crime addict guy's stuff is that it seemed like he was intentionally misrepresenting the story to draw attraction to himself. He was intentionally misleading people as a way to just springboard his own writing career. And yes, he wrote a book called True Crime Addict, and it's been pretty good for him. He also wrote a book called The Man from Primrose Lane, which I heard was going to be turned into a Netflix special, if not already. He got what he wanted, but no, I don't particularly like his takes on the subject. And, one of the reasons why is because I was pulled in for a while. I think it was episode 6 of Missing Maura Murray when I heard him as a guest. I was like, wow, what a wild story. And he was a very large proponent of the tandem driver theory. He was someone who's like, I think Maura Murray's alive and in Canada. I was like, my goodness, what kind of missing persons case is this? I think he
Yeah,
made all that stuff up for attention. So I don't trust him at all. I know some
no,
people really like him, but I don't.
I know that he'd write a book about her disappearance, but I I
Yeah,
never.
he also ran a blog for a long time, and it was one of the final things that I would read on Blogspot. And it was, somewhat well put together. He would, though, even say a lot of like weird accusations about how Fred Murray is a liar and that, he's been caught in multiple lies, but he wouldn't provide explanations as to how and why that happened. And just trying to put all the suspicion on the family that they were up to something. Then he changed his whole tandem driver theory about Maura living in Canada to how Maura was hiding out at a cabin. And then the family caught her. They're like, hey, you caused a bunch of trouble for us. We thought you were missing, but you're hiding out in a cabin. And then they killed her. What? I think he's just messing around, to be honest. And he's having fun doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I have here Maura's father making a statement.
Sure thing.
That she wants to come home and be buried in her hometown. And she can't be buried up here. And I need help. I need help.
Fred Murray is still grieving years later, 15 years to be exact, since his 21-year-old daughter Maura disappeared after crashing her car on a country road on the fringe of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Today, New Hampshire State Police joined FBI agents searching the basement of a home not far from where she vanished. They say they found nothing.
This one hurts because I thought we finally had it. This one is worse than the other false alarms or dead ends, and I was pretty sure,
Police report they searched the area for the sake of Maura's family and others who had suspected there was something there.
They cut that area, removed the concrete, and then searched several feet down and covered the entire area and beyond where that disturbed ground had been. And they located absolutely nothing other than a small piece of what looks to be potentially pottery or maybe a piece of old piping.
As for the family, the search goes on. They will never give up.
Stick my nose back in the trail. That's all I can do, and I can't quit. I'm not going to quit. I need help.
Yeah, I imagine it must be evil for his father to don't know anything about what happens to his daughter. It's
Oh yes, I remember when this news broke out. When you played that video with the headline that new evidence was found, I was like, "Oh, is this something I haven't heard before?" No, I remember this one because it was about 5 years ago, and you heard the man on the video, not Fred Murray, but the other guy. And it was my understanding that they had definitively determined that these suspicious findings that they had were pottery, like ceramic material. But he said they might even be part of a pipe. It could be both, but I mean, that's ultimately what came of that when they thought that somebody had buried Maura and that they had found something, but that was 5 years ago. Now the case has been unsolved for 20 years.
Yeah. Here I have a really different image from Maura when she was at the what do you call that?
ATM.
ATM for getting money. And yeah, the stuff I don't understand, this is why we don't have all the footage of that, because this is a missing case person. So if we can have access to this footage and the footage of the liquor store, we can maybe try to find something that the police can never find. But
yeah,
I don't know why. I really don't know why we don't have access to these files.
Julie looks just like her, by the way. I'm sure she gets that all the time.
Yeah, really.
If you told me that was Maura, I would have believed you. That's Maura 20 years later. I would have believed you.
Yeah. She really looks like her, and yeah, it's crazy when you see where the crush site, the house really close from she was. If you want to make to create a car crash or something like this, you doing that in the wood, not at the proximity of some house. But there is something here who have always reached my eyes. It's the fact that there is this round stuff here and all this damage here. A tree cannot do that. That's
No.
for sure. For sure.
Do you think it was part of the snowbank?
Even with the snowbank, imagine you have all this, all here we are completely crushed, and something round here. I'm wonder if it was not somebody who she hit maybe someone or something, a deer, or I really don't know, but not a tree. No, not a
Yes,
tree.
absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, maybe someone or an animal, or yeah, because great animal, yeah, a deer. I don't know if there is deer in this area,
I don't
but
know either, but I would expect so. I would expect so in New Hampshire.
yeah, this is a place I don't know. New Hampshire.
Ah,
I
yes, New England.
I don't really know what it look like. It look like nice. We have a lot of tree, a lot of nature.
Ah, yes. If I went missing, I hope my family would look for me with the same conviction as Moore's family. Absolutely. My family would not. Oh, they'd give up real fast. And Mystic Jinx says another good one here. If I go missing, look at my family first. I know how it is, Mystic Jinx. I get you. I get you. We had one though that was posted up a little bit earlier,
Yeah,
where it's from Mystic Jinx at 5:13 a.m. It's that's my time zone, and
yeah,
it says you said she wasn't a mastermind, so maybe that's why she would stage it. Okay, Mystic Jinx. I did an episode about this in 2020, an old black box recording, and there was a theory out there that Mora staged her disappearance because she was a fan of the movie Bottle Rocket, which was directed by Wes Anderson, and that has like a kind of staged disappearance in that one. And it's been 4 years since I've seen that movie, so excuse me if I misstate the details. But the stage disappearance is unsuccessful, and it's a very small part of the movie. But I did admit that you wouldn't have to be a mastermind to stage a disappearance like this. You just watch one movie or something and you get the idea, and that's how you'd get away with it. Especially somebody who was impulsive, and Morris seems to have been impulsive.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of deer and black
Lots of deer and
bears,
black bears. I think that's right. Yeah, I agree.
moose too. Yeah,
Oh, moose, absolutely. Rob, it wasn't the first time I went to Massachusetts. I think it was the second. I was in my cousin's car, and he's just driving down the road. Like, what's that? What's that? All of the cars are stopped and gathered around, and somebody hit a moose. This was in September or something, and the moose is just dead on the side, like in the middle of the road. And yeah, there are lots of moose.
yeah, and it happened really frequently. Not especially in this area, but I mean in general, it happened frequently that you can find a deer or a moose on the road hit by a car or a truck. So this is not crazy to thinking about that, but the tree, the tree, I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. But like you say, if you want to disappear, you don't need to doing all this stuff. You really don't need to doing all this stuff. You don't need to stage a car crash accident. You don't need to make believe that you were there one moment and 3 seconds later you were not there anymore. You don't want any witness because if a witness see you, that means that he can locate you. So I I
Absolutely,
don't
yes. I mean, yes, very good
I don't
points.
I don't know why I don't see I can see why she want to have time for her to decompress,
Yeah,
to clear her mind, and with all the shit they have in her past, in her freaking nearly past, it makes sense. Yeah, you need to clear your head. A nice place in the White Mountain. You were there with your family a lot of time. You know how to go. You have a car. Okay, okay, go ahead. And like you say, she was known to doing this kind of stuff. So no problem with that. But why? packaging all this stuff in a room at the school, why make package of all her stuff in the school? Why to lie to everybody? Why to lie about the phone call? Why so much lie for something after we will never figure out what did happen? It's two mystery in one.
I can answer some of those. Number one, why did she pack her things, and why are they packaged, as you said?
Yeah,
Now,
that's
as I
right.
said, there is the theory that she never took them out because she came back from winter break. That's one. The second is some people think she went to the White Mountains to commit suicide, and some people put their things in boxes before they commit suicide as a goodbye gesture. That's just speculation. You asked a better question. Why lie about the phone call?
Yeah,
All you Americans are going to know this. Maybe it's the same in Belgium. If she didn't have an excuse for going away for a week, then she wouldn't pass her classes and she wouldn't be able to keep her job. It's called an unexcused absence. And,
yeah.
if you have a reason to be out of the state or out of town because of a family emergency, they'll let you turn your work in later. So that's completely normal for college students. I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, but I did it. I think a lot of people in the chat probably did. You make up an excuse so you can still get credit for your classes.
Yeah, absolutely. But here, for example, in Belgium, if you do something like that, you can do it, but you need to prove it after. If you say my grandma is passed away and I need to go 1 week in the north, you need to prove after that she's really passed away. And
But she didn't say
so
that. She didn't say my grandmother
no,
passed away,
no,
right?
no, 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 no. It was just an example.
Well, you say, my sister's sick in the hospital. Oh,
Yeah,
now she's better. Then there's something else like that. And
you need
also,
to
more
prove it.
was a family emergency with her sister, right?
Yeah, and
Okay,
I
we have
don't
a
know
lot of
why.
good ones here in the chat, actually. Okay, now this is one that I've actually looked into a lot. Rag in the tailpipe makes no sense. Why would she care about black smoke from a car she just crashed? I think the only thing that does make sense about it is she didn't want people to see the car and get suspicious. Oh my God, that car's smoking. We got to call 911. We got to call the fire department. That thing's going to
Or
explode.
stopping by the police. Yeah,
Or being stopped by the police.
yeah, which makes sense. And I believe there is one witness who has seen a guy smoking a cigarette in the car, but after some years, she retract and she think it was maybe a phone, something like this. But there is a difference between somebody smoking a cigarette and the light of a phone.
Not at the time. Because
Ah,
back in 2004, I remember when we had the cell phones, I knew exactly what they were talking about. When you would be on your phone, they had like a red light that would turn on. I mean, we don't
true.
have it now, but this is
Yeah,
like
true. I
2004,
remember.
like on my
Yeah,
first cell phone. I had something like that, especially if it was connected to a car charger, like in the cigarette lighter. I do not believe it's been
true.
confirmed that they could see somebody smoking a cigarette in the car. But yes, I've heard that one before. Now, I said this is the stuff that I looked at about the rag and the tailpipe because we have a whole bunch of questions here. And as I said, I think the rag was there so it wouldn't be distracted. Yeah, you can pull up that next one, though, about, no, from Mystic Jinx. Would the rag and the tailpipe have caused the crash? I don't believe so, for the following reason. There is a way to drive a car with the rag and the tailpipe. And as I understand, you have to push it in very far, and it provides more pressure on the engine. It's done
Yeah,
with old rust bucket cars as a way to keep the, just as we said, more pressure so they function.
yeah.
But this rag was sitting on the edge of the tailpipe. It wasn't jammed way in there. And we know this because Fred Morey removed it with his bare hands when it was in storage so he could start the car because they said it probably won't start with the rag and the tailpipe. And that's what I think ultimately happened. I don't believe it was put there as a sabotage. And here is the next point.
Oh,
I mean, we actually had someone talks about carbon monoxide, but it's from
yeah,
Mark. This is also addressed in other things. Even if you could start the car with the rag in the tailpipe, it would have blown out at high speeds. So it is impossible that Maura drove the car going the speed limit from Massachusetts to New Hampshire with the rag in the tailpipe the whole way if it were on the edge, like if it were exposed. I mean, if the rag is just kind of like halfway in, halfway out, where you could reach it with your bare hands, it is practically impossible for that to have
yeah.
happened. I think the rag was put there by Maura at the end of her journey.
I agree. I agree. I don't know so much in car, but I agree.
I know nothing about cars. I read all of this stuff for Maura Murray because of the Maura Murray case.
I'm better with bikes because
Yeah, you were in the motorcycle gang, right?
yeah,
No, I would
not a
read through
gang,
auto
an
forums just
MC.
to hear this stuff, like about the rags of the tailpipe. Like, is this actually an old school method for working with cars? And yes, people did say that stuff, but I would just read this stuff, like on just things that were completely unrelated to Maura Murray because I wanted to find
Yeah, yeah,
unbiased
yeah.
sources. Yes,
But
yes.
if you want to do that with the monoxide of carbon, you don't need to go so far to do that. You do that near your house, or I don't know. You don't need to go in the wood to do that. It's it's strange to
Yes, and let alone Maura's not in the car, so how
no.
would that make sense? Now, Mystic
Yeah,
Jinx, would it cause carbon monoxide back up and make her crash? I don't think it could have made her crash because, as we said, the car might not have started and also it would have blown out at high speeds. Now, as far as carbon monoxide goes, as I understand, the buildup would have to take place only when the car is running. So if the car is turned off on the side of the road, there wouldn't have been carbon monoxide buildup, I think. No, I don't believe so. And that's brilliant if they actually could, but it's been contaminated. As this was also brought up on Missing Maura Murray. Why would law enforcement tell Fred Murray to remove the rag from the car with his bare hands? Could they not have extracted more evidence? 2004, they knew about DNA. Maybe the Zodiac DB Cooper sleuths didn't know about it. Maybe the Jack
no.
the Ripper sleuths didn't know about it. By sleuths, I should say detectives, investigators, members
Yeah,
of law enforcement back in 69 and 71. 2004, no excuses.
no, no, no. And I don't know. Did did the police find stuff of Mora, jeans, shirt, vest, shoes in a car?
All kinds of things. They found
All kind
loads
of
of
stuff.
things. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't remember the exact list. There's too many things to count. I
No,
remember
but
the alcohol and the rag in the tailpipe actually came from her emergency kit that was in the car. It belonged to the emergency kit. Let's just say that. I was about to say it's Maura's rag, but as you said, maybe her father is the official owner of the car. You call it his car, but they had all kinds of things that were in the car. Lots of items.
maybe she maybe it's just an hypothesis. Maybe she just goes to but close from Butchatwood house to have more signal of on a cell phone, maybe to call her father, because the first people we will call in this kind of situation, especially if you were with him the night and the night before and the day before, if something happens, you will call your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't have signal where you are, like Butchatwood said, you will maybe go uh, on the road and where the dog last a track, it's maybe where she was taken from somebody or from a father, but that's something which is strange, or maybe maybe something did happen to her in the crash. She called her father. Her father arrived on the scene. She took her in his car, and maybe she died in his car. You see what I mean?
What evidence is there to support that her father was
No
there?
one, no one, no
Okay.
one. But I'm just wondering if it's a possibility that, like, she is alone, she's afraid, it's cold, it's dark, she have no signal on her cell phone. She's asking if she need help by this guy, Butch Atwood. She say no. Butch Atwood know that she lies about her calling APP or AAA.
AAA.
AAA. She knows she's lying, so he goes to his boss, making his paperwork. Maybe he doesn't pay attention at all. She go on the on the on the wood, but in parallel with the road. So no deeply in the wood, just in the wood to not be seen by anyone because she don't want to be seen. She has in front of Butch Atwood's home some signal on her cell phone. She called her father. She continued to hide herself from everyone everywhere. Her father picks up where she was, and she was maybe injured by something, I don't know. And with the cold, with maybe the alcohol, with the injuries, maybe she died when in her father's car when he was in a way to go to the hospital with her, but like she died in his car, he don't know what to do, and he start to create a kind of story to try to, I don't know, I don't know.
Well, why would he make up a story if he didn't do anything wrong? He'd be like, "Yeah, my daughter crashed her car. I was driving her to the hospital. She called me. I thought she was fine, but if he didn't
When I
hurt her,
arrived, she was not, and yeah, that's true. Yeah,
why would he lie about it if he didn't do anything wrong?"
yeah, you're right. Doesn't make sense.
Oh, just asking.
That's why I like when you are there because I say stuff and you say, Jerome, doesn't make sense. No.
And we have one from Mark Winter here who says, "When I heard about this case, I assumed it was another Brandon Lawson type incident. Now I think she was taken." Brandon Lawson went missing in 2013. What was it, August 8th or 9th of that year, 2013, after his car ran out of gas going from San Angelo, Texas toward Abilene, Texas. And he was discovered in 2022. Now, he made a very suspicious phone call after the car ran out of gas, mind you, and people couldn't really figure out what he was saying on the call, which was recorded by the 911 dispatcher. Now, for the longest time, I thought that Maura was in a similar situation as Brandon Lawson. Car problems, walks away from the car, and passes away in the vicinity. Right now, I kind of had a similar experience to you, Mark. I think she was abducted. Brandon Lawson most likely died from methamphetamine-induced psychosis, and he was high on, by his brother's own admission, methamphetamines, and he had some type of, lost touch with reality, and he passed away rather close to where his vehicle was, but it took 9 years to find his remains.
Took a long time.
Yes, shockingly. Fire Pixie says the only theory that has an outside remote chance of being a fact is the A-frame house, in my opinion. The A-frame house is the one that had the places where the blood dogs went and they went bonkers. Is that right, Fire Pixie? That's the house that's
I think so,
suspicious.
yeah.
Sure. And there was a really interesting episode about it on Missing Maura Murray called "The Red Truck, the Rusty Knife, and the A-frame House." And
But this is stuff that the police had investigated on, or this is something just people like us are talking about?
well, the police investigated and they brought blood dogs, and the dogs were the ones that went bonkers.
Yeah, I was watching here to show you Butch Atwood's home. Yeah, on the right.
Is
you
this
have
the
Butch
interview clip
Atwood.
with Butch Atwood?
Yeah,
On the right, we have Butch Atwood.
yeah. This is Butch Atwood's home. I think so.
Oh, his home.
Yeah, his home.
That is
Oh.
a nice house for a bus driver.
Yeah.
And as you see, that was a Q&A with John Smith. John Smith has worked very hard on this case. And
Yeah.
tirelessly and effortlessly. And filled with effort. Not effortlessly. Filled with effort is what I meant. And this looks like the A-frame house that
Yeah.
Fire Pixie was just talking about.
Yeah. It's this one. Yeah. And yeah, here it's the scene who was takatakatam, where it was here. The same one, but they try to recreate the incident. Yeah, if the car is there is no way that this is a car crash.
Well, that's what 107 Degrees was trying to promote. Again, shout outs to Aaron and Ethan. They were saying that, was Maura's car really in an accident? Did she just pull over on the side of the road onto some rough snow and she couldn't start the car because she didn't know to take the key out and put it back in? And the reason why I'm having trouble remembering that is they were saying in a very technical way, like they were reading through the manual on Maura's Saturn. They purchased the manual for that type of Saturn, and they weren't necessarily just saying like, oh yeah, well, she had to take the key out, put it back in, then the car would start. So is it possible that there wasn't even a car crash on Route 112? And they were even saying, is it possible that the bottle that was underneath the car that had the weird smell was not even Maura's? So the rag in the tailpipe was, though, if that's from the emergency kit. But she's just pulling over on the side of the road, and then the car won't start. That's something.
Yeah, it's
Now, Fire Pixie says the only theory that has an outside remote chance of being a fact is about the A-frame house, in my opinion. And Fire Pixie, when you say the outside remote chance, do you mean involving a perpetrator who was not part of the story, or a perpetrator who was not part of the original investigation? I mean, I think if there is somebody driving a red truck that's following her and in a suspicious way, sure, that could be some cause for concern. And I do remember that episode very clearly of Missing Maura Murray, the red truck, the rusty knife, and the A-frame house. And I thought that the red truck was actually the biggest clue because suspicious vehicle trailing Maura. You have to be curious about that. And Fire Pixie says, yes, and I listened to an interview with the new owners of the A-frame house, that is. It was pretty interesting, and they gave full access, and blood was found. So something happened in the A-frame house. I mean,
yeah, but we
I
don't
don't know if
we
it's
don't know what.
conviction.
something
But
happened, but we don't know what.
right, but I think this ties into a much larger set of theories about what happened to Mora, and that is that number one, she was abducted. Number two, she was brought to a very nearby home and she was murdered on site, and then her remains were disposed of somewhere else. And these types of theories happen in the true crime world all the time. And in
Oh yeah,
missing
yeah.
persons cases all the time, where if someone goes missing, they they are there's a high chance that they were murdered or they died very close to the time of the disappearance. Countless examples. Even look at Brandon Lawson, we just talked about. And I was just watching the Citizen Detective podcast, and they were talking about the disappearance of Nicole Marin from Ontario, Canada, back in the 1980s. And also, she goes missing from her own apartment complex. Dr. Lee Meller flat out said that she probably died within an hour of the disappearance. As a professional criminologist, that was his interpretation of the evidence. With Maura Murray, it's quite possible that she died very shortly after she went missing,
Yeah,
as terrible as it is to say.
yeah, but yeah, it's really, really possible. But in the same times, don't you think it's really weird? Then she, she's doing all this stuff to make things people that something happened to her family and she need to move from 1 week for yeah for this reason, and in the same times she's been adopted or killed by somebody. And I think it's odd that these two stories are conflicting each other, because if we follow the story, she's making lie to everybody about this, a family urgency to move somewhere. She made some internet research. She write a lot of emails to everybody except her family for sure. And when she's on her way to move, she's kidnapped or killed by somebody. Don't you think it's odd? It's two different story.
My short answer is no. 21
No,
year old female in a vulnerable place in the dark at night, non
yeah, true.
threatening.
Yeah,
I think.
true.
What did I say in the past? This is something that I said on one of my first Maura Murray recordings back in 2018. People are asking the question, whose car would Maura Murray get into? I think no. We got to change that question. Who wouldn't let Maura Murray into their car? Everyone would. 21-year-old, 5'7" female, completely non-threatening. I think that she could have easily been abducted. She was just in a vulnerable place. I absolutely think that could happen to a woman. That yes, she made up these stories to go on this trip by herself to the White Mountains. She's on the side of the road at night in the dark, and she's by herself.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, she was 21. She was attractive. She was cute, vulnerable, like you say.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this one up here. Mark says, are you going to try and start a car when the airbags have deployed? I don't think I would. Newer cars won't start when the airbags go off, as the pyro fuse blows and cuts the ignition. Now, this is something that has escaped me. Is this true, Jerome, that the airbags deployed? I don't recall that exact detail. Do you remember
I
that?
I, I think they were deployed, and there is the discussion about that. If it was the car crash uh, makes the airbag deployed, or if it was herself who deployed the airbag, because there is a kind of stuff you learn in the army or in the law enforcement. When you are in danger, you deploy by yourself the airbag to say, I'm in danger.
And why do you do that?
this is a code, a kind of code. And like she was in the military, when
Yes.
let's say that you you see that you will be adopted by somebody.
Yes.
The last thing you could do in your car it's try to deploy the airbag to say it. Yeah, it's a red flag because that's mean I'm in danger. That's something I've learned in the past about this case.
Okay. Sure. All right. Yes. I guess that detail escaped me. But I mean, I take your guys' word for it.
But
Fair enough.
yeah, it was maybe because the airbag deployed because the crash, or because she's doing that by herself to say I'm in danger. That's the two stuff that I've heard about the airbag.
Now, this is from Mystic Jinx talking about the A-frame house. But the dog could be smelling something that happened in the house to someone that lived in the house. They can't determine whose blood it was. The dog can only pick up on decaying stuff, IMS. I'm just saying, I think that's right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think they would have any way to do any type of DNA tests on the blood because
No.
it's going to be exposed to so many different contaminants. Possibly, but I mean, if it's just exposed there. Mystic Jinx says, there's another case I know of where a person is missing after a car accident. Shane fell in Louisiana. If anyone is interested in looking into another case, sure. We can look into that in the future. The disappearance of Shane Fell. And I was just thinking about another one about someone who went missing after they were where they left their car. But I was just thinking about it and it escaped me. If I can remember it, I will bring it up with you guys here. Fire Pixie says, exactly. Like I said, it's not the only freaking outside remote chance that it might or could have been her. Oh, is that what you meant, Fire Pixie? That the A-frame house and the blood dogs is the only real solid leader of evidence that we have? If that's the case, I agree with you. Because all of these things that we are talking about are all theoretical. As I said already, that's the reason why people look at the disappearance of Maura Murray. That's why people follow this case, because we know so much about what happened with the events prior to Route 112 and absolutely nothing about what happened afterward. Now, Jerome, let's talk about something real fast. There was an individual out there named Alden Howells Olson who made a YouTube account called 112 Dirtbag. And he made this video on the anniversary of Maura's disappearance where he is just laughing.
I remember.
And then it says, happy anniversary. He also has other videos out there where he calls himself Mr. 1974, making bizarre sexual gestures and so on. But that is something that is connected to Maura's case. However, is that a substantial piece of evidence? No. Much as Fire Pixie said, that's not something on par with blood evidence or blood dogs going away. And if anything, I think Alden Howells Olson was mocking Fred Murray because he made the whole account called 112 Dirtbag. Fred Murray said from the very beginning that he believes some local dirtbag snatched Maura and that she got into the vehicle of the wrong person. So 112 Dirtbag was mostly likely just mocking the family, some type of deranged behavior. I want to be careful what I say, but Alden Howells Olson may have even passed away, I forget, but I don't really care. He's a mean person. Forget him.
Yeah, and doing that, it's really disgusting because you have a family who are in panic to wonder what happened to a doctor, sister, and there is this kind of people who mock the family.
And right, we've covered this one here.
Yeah.
And all right, Jerome, it appears that this episode is winding down now, and I would like to say thank you to everyone who has been participating in the chat. Lots of great questions and comments about Maura Murray. Now, as far as a concluding note goes, I briefly mentioned the Citizen Detective podcast that is hosted by Dr. Lee Meller, Alex Ralph, Mike Morford, and Cloyd Steiger, and Susanna Ryan. And, they have other people on the show as well. They are almost at their 1,000 subscriber mark. If you want to follow along with different types of true crime cases, I invite you to go over and subscribe to the
Yeah.
Citizen Detective podcast. If you are into the DB Cooper case, I invite you to go to DB Cooper Sleuth, which is run by Ryan Burns, one of the best DB Cooper shows out there. He is almost at his 1,000 subscribers. And as always, you can subscribe to Mysteries with Mr. Belgique here. And, drop a comment down below, hit the like button, all of that. And I'm Ned DeHaan from Black Box Online Radio. You guys in the chat know that, and even Jerome's other viewers already know that. But you can always go over to Black Box Online Radio and visit some of the other content. Every Monday, I do a segment about the Zodiac Killer. Every Wednesday about Jack the Ripper, and every Friday about DB Cooper. And I'm always open to more things in the future for the Tuesday and Wednesday shows. True Crime Talk Radio in the morning, hosted by me, Black Box Ned. And Jerome, thank you once again for having me on Mysteries with Mr. Belgique.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you very much. And like Ned say, don't forget to subscribe to BBOR on Spotify, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and there is great content on BBOR. I never lost, no, not lost, but I never forget to watch missed. Thank you. I never missed an episode, because even if it's something that I don't know, with Ned, I already learned something new, always. And thank you very much to everybody in the chat. So we have done this show today, because normally it's on Saturday, but tomorrow I'm invited by Ross Gerasi on his YouTube channel, Planet X Film, to explain my own theory about the Zodiac Killer. And on Monday, we will come back with the panel, episode 11. And just before you go, Ned, just some thoughts about the new Netflix documentary with the seawater, because like I told you the last week, I was sure that we will learn nothing new about the case or a suspect, but what do you think, Ned? What are your thoughts about the documentary?
Well, I haven't seen it yet. I've had some
you don't
trouble
have
setting
seen
up the Netflix account in the Philippines. What I've heard from people is people who closely follow the Zodiac Killer mystery is that they are horribly disappointed with This Is the Zodiac Speaking, the new one here. And I was even talking about it in a Facebook group, and somebody said that, hey, now wait a second. The focus of this documentary was not to solve the mystery. It was to get the Seawaters to tell their story about Arthur Lee Allen, the prime suspect.
Yeah.
And fair enough, but Jerome, as you know better than anyone, they already did that on their YouTube channel and told their stories. So they took the YouTube channel down and then sold it to Netflix, I guess. That's still not very helpful, because that's not new information.
Not at all. Not at all. I think Netflix has too much money to lose, or I don't know. Really, like yeah, but like you said, they've done that in three-part episodes to learning what? Nothing. But really, nothing.
You've seen it. Is it just them telling the stories about what Arthur Lee Allen used to do with them?
Yes.
Like singing the Mikado and Gaviota Beach and...
Yeah, and we have Grace Smith, who is sure that the day that Paul Stein was killed, the Zodiac had took the cab just before theater who was playing the Mikado. How can he knows that? It's impossible to know this kind of the stuff. So we have Grace Smith, who appeared 3-4 times in the documentary. We have Tom Voigt. Yeah. We have the Stillwater family, other people from the family, and even at the end, Connie say, "I don't think it was he was the Zodiac Killer," and that's I told you when I have talked with Connie. She told me the same thing. I don't think Billy Allen, the Zodiac Killer, but let's say that we were. It's funny because no, it's not funny. I'm sad for them, but they claim they were every time at the site where the crimes occurred. I don't know. Uh, it's strange, and when you have, because they were not baby, they were teenager, so they can understand what's going on, and they don't say anything to the mother, or oh, we have lost Ned, but yeah, they don't say anything to a mother or to anybody, and they are waiting for 50 years before start to claiming stuff about Lee Allen. And yeah, even if when it was on their YouTube channel, I never buy the story, but now I don't buy either the story, but it's on Netflix, so yeah, Netflix had too much money to lose. So, like I said, please subscribe to Net channel, to Ross Gerasis channel, Planet X Films, BBOR. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for all your constant support. Thank you to Charlie, to Megan, to Fire Pixie, to Darkside, to Rob, to Mystic Jinx, to Mark. Rob, I said, yeah. Rob, thank you very much. Mr. GVS 650. I'm sorry if I have missed somebody, but thank you very much for your help, your support. The best way to support these channels is just to watching this channel. And if you want to put a thumbs up, do it, but it's not the more important. Ned is come back. The best way to support this channel is to watch this channel. And thank you very much. I hope you will have a nice weekend. And
Hello?
yeah, Ned. Yeah. I'm still
Yes, I guess there was just a problem with my internet real fast. I just wanted to I didn't leave without saying goodbye. I just something I guess kicked me out of the call, and it also won't let me turn my camera on. Hope that you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right, I just want to say thank you once again. Looks like my video is starting up, and also, I was just there for a second.
Yeah.
It looks like I'm centered now. And yes, thank you, Jerome, for having me on here. I just wanted to do a formal goodbye and say thanks to everybody in the chat. I appreciate all the questions and comments and all the love that people have been sending around. And Jerome, I'll see you on Monday for the panel discussion show.
Could you say your famous goodbye? Could you say your
yes.
famous goodbye?
If we were talking about the Zodiac briefly, so we can conclude episodes with goodbye.
Can you repeat, because there was a lag? Shit. There's still a lag. Oh, I've missed this. Goodbye. Oh, for the next time. Okay. I see you tomorrow on Planet X Film at 11 p.m. Belgium time, which is 2 p.m. California times. And I see you there tomorrow, and I see you here on Monday for episode 11 from the Zodiac Killer Mystery. Have a great week, and take care of you. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved one. And like I say all the time,